With so many podcasts out there, shows can get lost in the shuffle. That's why we implore you to check out Too Many Captains. You can find us at amoviepodcast.com.
5 unique takes on Hollywood movies and culture. Find us on Twitter at It's a Film Podcast.
Check our intellectual deep dives into theatrical films. Find us on Instagram at Too Many Captains Productions.
Unique takes on soundtracks. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Too Many Captains Productions.
Find us at amoviepodcast.com on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. And now, here comes a new episode of Collateral Cinema.
I'm Bo Maddox.
I'm Ashley Chancellor.
I'm Ian Harper.
I'm Lewis.
And this is Collateral Cinema and
Retro Anime Podcast.
welcome to Collateral Cinema, the only movie podcast that matters, where we focus on good movies, bad movies, and everything else in between in the world of cinema. We're podcasting straight from somewhere in South Texas, and yes, my friends, we are a 420 friendly podcast, so whatever you have, be it dabs, blunts, bongs, or joints, smoke it if you've got it. And what's up, Ash?
I think it's time we blow this scene.
Get everybody in their stuff together. Okay. 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
Let's jam.
Yeah, and this is quite an auspicious occasion. This is a special episode that we're doing with the Retro Anime Podcast, Ian and Lewis. How are you guys doing?
We're good,
fine.
thanks. Yeah, doing good.
Excellent, excellent. So tell us a little bit about your show. I guess obviously the name implies you check out a lot of old school anime.
Yeah.
Do you want to take the floor?
Yeah, so I'll start off. So Lewis is my stepson. Okay, so we're a father and son podcast team. So
okay.
You know, I'm in my I'm past my mid-40s now. So I got into anime, you know, a long time ago. I got into Battle of the Planets in the late 70s as a young child, and I liked a lot of anime that I didn't realise was anime. And then, you know, when it kind of got licensed and went bit more mainstream in 91 in the UK, you know, I've been a anime fan ever since. So you know, I used to watch a lot of anime, and then Lewis would, when he was, you know, much younger, used to watch anime, started watching it with me, didn't you? So
yeah, exactly. I think I remember watching the original Gundam.
Yeah, it was Gundam Seed. That was the first thing we watched together.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, Gundam Seed we watched. Yeah. And I remember I was obviously hooked on the Western kind of anime localized versions of like Pokemon and Digimon, and then very quickly got adapted into the mecha, and then kind of discovered Evangelion, and then
well, that as you do.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was very formative. You know, it was great.
Excellent.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of similar to how I started off. Like I just hit my early 40s, so. I mean, I was there for a lot of the 80s anime and also the big boom in the 90s and everything. So I get exactly where y'all are coming from.
Yeah, so the idea of the...
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so the idea of the podcast was actually I wanted to talk about, you know, old anime and a lot of stuff that just kind of never really gets talked about on podcasts. And then, you know, I talked to Lewis about it, and actually the dynamic, because Lewis watches a lot more modern anime than I do. Like, actually, I have a bit of kind of the rose tints for some of this stuff, and Lewis is a bit more objective about some of it. So, you know, it's quite a good to have like my old school eyes and Lewis's sort of much younger, like next generation kind of viewpoint on some of this older stuff. So it works really well.
It's been really eye-opening to kind of go back in time and what obviously never pick off the shelf. I wouldn't even like give it a second glance, and it's a lot of the time it's painful. It's painful. But the other times it's like, wow, actually, you can really see where some of these styles came from, and you can really see where these systems were working, and the efficiency of the anime industry and its boom and everything else. It's kind of, it makes everything afterwards kind of feel, I don't know, collateral.
Collateral, exactly, totally collateral.
Sounds like kind of got a similar dynamic to Bo and I have with our approach to anime. Bo grew up with a lot of the 90s, 80s anime, whereas I kind of got introduced to anime through some of the more modern stuff. I mean, my shit is Naruto.
Yeah,
that's what got me hooked.
Yeah.
That's what's always going to be my favorite. But man, this one that we're talking about today actually has to make it to my top 5, and I have to thank Bo for introducing me to Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, it took me introducing you to this series, right?
For the podcast.
Of all things, like. To me, it's one of those real bread and butter kind of animes. I mean, it's so integral to the language of the genre.
Yeah.
Oh god, it's sustenance. It's like it's bread and crackers. It's the best thing ever.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a proper gateway anime series for a lot of people, isn't it?
100%. Yeah.
It's just cool, and it's so cool that even watching it makes you cool. I don't know anyone who hasn't. I don't know anyone who's like even seen a few episodes and go, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you just
cool. And it is.
You just watch one episode and then all of a sudden you have some scotch on the rocks and a cigarette in your fingers, and you're just like grooving to some jazz, and it's just like, oh wow,
you're gonna carry all that weight.
You're carrying all that weight.
100%. You like from the minute the kind of from the minute the intro hits, you're just like, oh wait, I found myself without even realizing it. 2 episodes in, I'd already poured myself a glass of whiskey. Didn't even think about it. It was just there in front of me. I was like, oh, hang on.
Yeah, it just kind of comes with the territory whenever you're watching this anime. I mean, and it's great because it's such a perfect confluence of so many different genres in anime and in film in many ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a kind of it's one of those breakthrough. I'd say breakthrough. It's 98, so it's still kind of young in its boots, but it really had something that a lot of other series or things fail to do, and it's that kind of that real style, and not a scene is wasted, and everything serves its greater whole kind of thing, like the world building, everything else like that. So.
Yeah, just the way that the narrative is constructed, like how you just get like whispers of the overarching storyline throughout, and you also have standalone episodes that are pretty awesome on their own right.
I think that's what really makes the series excel, is that it does have a very standalone approach. And what you do get out of character backstories still leaves the characters shrouded in mystery. I mean, there's this overall plot going on with Vicious, but most of Bebop is just day-to-day life with this dysfunctional family.
Yeah, and what
exactly.
What a day-to-day life it is. I mean, it really undercuts like just how boring that type of life would be.
Yeah,
especially when you put it in the context of interstellar travel and everything, and human beings have branched out across the galaxy. I mean, it just shows that even in 2073, 2083, or something like that, life is just so banal.
Yeah,
effortlessly, effortlessly transitions the style and the mood and the world of the piece through. Like, I guess 3 minutes in, you pass the intro, you've already got like an idea just from the quality of the animation of who Spike is, and who Jet is. That even those 2 on screen early doors, it's that you immediately see the difference in their characters, the optimism and the nihilistic kind of disregard for everything. It's just immediately presented to you, and you don't justify anything else going forward.
Because I think like the series has one of the best first episodes like I've seen in like all the series, because I keep a track. I've seen over 650 different like anime titles, so I've got a huge amount to like reference against. And the first episode like just does a good job of just telling you exactly what this series is going to be like. It's it sets up that kind of lackadaisical, cool, that kind of thing, but the adventure and the action
by that one harmonica.
And all the detailed, like when they go through the astral gates and you see the ticket go through to kind of register the payment, like through the toll gate, and when Jet takes off for the first time, and all the little detail in the the flaps on the swordfish, and it's brimming with little detail like that, like absolutely brimming. And the bit at the end where the woman, she isn't pregnant, she's got all this red-eye drug capsules and with little bits of detail, and it just sets that up then for the remaining 25 episodes.
We actually got that on right now in the background. That's what I was setting up whenever we first hooked up with you guys. We've got Asteroid Blues running on mute. And I got to agree, it is a perfect way to start this series. I mean, it just immediately sets the tone for how this series is going forward. And you don't even have all your main cast here yet. You really just have Spike and Jet. But even the dynamic between those two and, just the world building that goes on, you already get a feeling for what Cowboy Bebop is.
Hell, you even get a flavor for how Spike actually interacts with, like, women throughout the entirety of the series. Just with this one woman that he encounters. I mean, you completely get his whole motivation there, and you completely get how he actually functions in this world.
And I think it does one of those things because it sets up the ending, like in that very first scene.
Oh,
because it sets that up, and you don't really find out about what the actual context of that scene is until much later, and then it kind of closes that loop at the very end of the series, at the end of the the two-parter that closes the series out.
Yeah.
Because Watanabe did a series a couple of years ago called Carol and Tuesday, which effectively is set in the Cowboy Bebop world. It's set on Mars, but it's actually part of the same universe.
Oh,
and it actually has the same... Yeah, it has the same structure. It kind of tells you that bit at the beginning, then spends the next 26 episodes actually explaining how you got to that ending. So,
Wow, we actually did not know that.
I didn't know there was anything else in the Bebop universe, because Bo and I were actually talking about how great it would be to see something set. I mean, our idea was something that would be really cool would be like an open world video game set in the Cowboy Bebop universe.
Yeah. And, there's already precedent for something like that, Like with No Man's Sky, I mean, you have the precedent for having an entire, solar system to explore and whatnot.
Yeah, I was thinking much the same that way, Like they've built this incredible world, even down to some of the citizens, like these three guys that show up in a bunch of episodes.
The three elderly dudes, like they're always there.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, they're always there. And I really like about like what you mentioned earlier about the whispers of a storyline. With that flashback at the very, very beginning, that kind of like is that foreshadowing of the end. It feels the story is through the lens of Spike, but you're kind of just taking like a third person camera through these interactions of these characters, and it's like a lot of them are all. Anytime you cut to someone else, they're all like there's something they're doing that's a character fulfillment loop, or it's trying to get closer to Spike.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially with Jet, like Jet desperately trying to understand his motivations, or both of them like trying to desperately understand his motivations and get to the core of who he is.
And you kind of get that, Jet and Spike, they are for the most part really, intimately familiar with each other's back stories and everything, but only to a certain point.
There's secrets they keep from each other. Like, Spike asks Jet about his arm. He doesn't know, what happened there, and we don't find out until Black Dog Serenade.
Yeah, several episodes down the line.
Yeah.
And it sets up that dynamic like right off the get-go. It's just, the dynamic of family. And that's one of these overarching themes, is that this is very much about family.
family.
Yeah.
Dominic Toretto comes in.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's a Mustang with a supercharged V8 flying out of the Astral Gate. Yeah.
that would track, and that would actually be amazing, honestly.
But
yeah.
in that dynamic, though,
go ahead.
I was going to say, because in that dynamic between them, because there's this one of the things that's quite profound with all the characters is this sense of loneliness.
Yeah, loneliness and desperation as well.
Yeah. So as much as they're kind of together, is that they're together and they're not together. They've all got these kind of they're all kind of damaged goods.
Yeah.
To an extent.
Silently understanding each other, they never press. It's kind of
Yeah, totally.
It's almost like a weirdly perfect family.
Yeah, very perfect. I mean, it's like, man, if I wish that my family would have kind of just fucked off and not worried about half of my bullshit, And that's kind of what it is with these 4 individuals, maybe 5 with Ein. I mean, you got to kind of include Ein in there.
You got to, because, even Ein's got a sort of, intelligence about him.
And even he has a backstory to him, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how Jet, talks about, and he brings this up multiple times about how the other members of the Bebop just come and go as they please. And he just gets so fed up with their bullshit. But at the end of the day, as much as they bicker, they always seem to be there for each other and come to each other's rescue when, it's really needed.
They really do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's ultimately what family is all about, right? Is having somebody to fall back on like that.
Spike will never admit that he likes Faye or Edward, but there is this underlying bond, and I like how Cowboy Bebop just shows and doesn't tell with these relationships.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're all very functional. They all kind of bring something individual to the table, and like when the episodes are presenting their journeys, it's all like they're all pursuing different avenues or leads. It usually amalgamates to the whole. It's just it's like very seamlessly done.
Oh, very seamlessly. And once again, I just love how all of this is just set to the backdrop of, human beings being out in space. Like the sci-fi elements of it is like, it's very upfront, but it's also very kind of rugged, very worn down and everything, almost steampunkish to a degree, but not so much.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I think there's this whole thing, like what I think the series does really well, and part of it in how it sets up that sort of kind of science fiction background. It's like it kind of tells you something but doesn't tell you everything. So like the whole Astral Gate incident that like meant the Earth became uninhabitable. There's little clues about what happened, but they don't fully explain what happened there.
No, it never is. Like we just have, whispers and murmurs of that. Like for instance, in the episode with the young kid, like where he's actually an older man and everything.
Oh yeah. Sympathy for the
devil. Sympathy for the devil.
The sympathy for the devil. Yeah.
It's like, I mean, that's a direct a consequence because of the Astral Gate disaster and everything. And then like later on when it comes to Chess Master Hex, how that plays into everything,
Yeah.
So that's always something that's in the background, and it's always influencing the events of the show, like per se,
Yeah.
Well,
in the meta sense, sorry.
Yeah, in the meta sense,
We've brought up a few episodes, but what are some of the standalone episodes that stick out to you guys?
I mean, I really like the Jupiter Jazz 2-parter with Gren.
That is a huge favorite of mine.
I really like it, the way it gives that little bit of background to Vicious, during the war on Callisto and stuff, and it's, and again just a little bit more about Julia. So again, kind of that how it fits bit of where, because it's sort of right in the middle of the series, so it's kind of done a few bits, hints and bit about that overarch, and then in the middle you get this 2-parter and you get a load of backstory and a bit of development about kind of
what kind of
Vicious
person what kind of person
Yeah.
Vicious actually is, you know?
Yeah.
Because I mean, there does seem to be a slight sympathetic undercurrent to him a little bit, slightly.
Yeah, almost.
Slightly.
Yeah.
It's kind of there, but it's also very obvious that he just completely threw all that away a long time ago. Whenever he put his plans into machinations into effect, you know.
Yeah. And I quite like Piero LeFou.
That's one of my favorites.
Man,
that kind of that assassin that goes after him. I think that's hilarious.
I love the narrative structure of that. I mean, you get no real explanation as to what the Mad Pierrot actually is.
Yeah.
And then when we actually get an explanation, it doesn't matter in the end. None of it mattered. I mean, he was going to come after Spike one way or the other. There was nothing they could do about it. It was just something that they had to mitigate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Tongpu chose them. He chose Spike.
Yeah, he wasn't actually a bounty they were going after. That's what's crazy is there wasn't a bounty on his head at all.
Spike was literally out and about just playing billiards. That's all he was doing. That's his only crime in that entire episode.
He's just a force of nature. I gotta say, yeah, Piero LeFou may be one of my favorite episodes, if not my favorite episode, just because I love how it starts, and I just love the whole thing beginning to finish. I think it's one of the best written episodes.
It really is, yeah. And also, you know, like the narrative structure, like I said, like for instance, how we actually get the information about Tongpu.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like whenever Ed hacks in, like we don't really get an indication that what we're watching is like something that was actually on the information on the website that Ed hacked.
Yeah.
Like you don't get any of that. It just kind of goes into this really intense little backstory. And like I said, none of that matters in the end. It's all irrelevant because Spike has to fight him anyways, and he just eliminates him.
Yeah. And Hard Luck Woman as well, because I like the fact the way it focuses on Ed. So I think because it's so late in the series, because you've had all that chance to build up and know like the characters a bit, and then it goes off and does that Ed centric, and I think that's quite interesting because there's all again what we talked about earlier about that.
Yeah,
they've all got these kind of they don't know their own pasts, and they're kind of trying to piece all these pieces together to you know put together their background and understand who they are and stuff. You know that bit with Ed's father. I think like episodes like that, I think is really good because that's a little bit out of the norm of the
also,
sort of regular narrative of the series.
Yeah, well, also that particular episode, Hard Luck Woman, that's such a huge change. That's when you know that the series is about to enter its climax. You know, because I mean, Edward leaving is just. I remember that being like one of the most notable parts of the show is when Ed leaves. That's when everything changes.
Ed and Ein, you know.
Ed and Ein,
yeah, Ed and Ein, yeah.
In a way, that means that the heart of their little family is kind of, you know, it was finally set in place, and now it's just kind of leaving.
I think it was kind of necessary, though, because of the themes that the next two episodes, you know, the finale two-parter goes through, the real folk blues. I think getting Ed out of the way for that was probably the best way. And like you said, I mean, it does sort of give you closure. I mean, not, one or two episodes before that, Big Shot also closes out. And so we really can feel that the series is winding down by that point.
And then in Real Folk Blues, we see the main host of Big Shot in like completely out of character, like picking up his mother or grandmother, as it were. And that's when you finally, that finality just hits you there. You know, the finality of like, these stories are, this climax is coming, this story's about to end, and we know it's not going to end well for Spike.
No.
Yeah.
Like, there's no other way that could have ended. You know? Like, of course Julia would be dead. Of course he would have to fight his way and destroy Vicious, you know?
Yeah. I think it's the suddenty of it as well. It's like there's this kind of, you've built up this cautious optimism about you know, his character and how he gets out of these like very tight and tricky situations, and it's all of his training pays off. And then as soon as his one weakness is like kind of revealed,
Yeah.
is immediately kind of like snapped away, and it feels so like sudden and part of that, because it's a lot of like there's a lot of parts in that chase sequence.
A lot of
where
it, yeah.
Where it gets slowed down, and you're like, oh, it's just for the dramatics of it, and then the slowest one part where it slows down for the shortest time is just snap, and it's kind of gone.
Yeah,
and it's almost like you snap into existence in that moment as well when you're witnessing that. You're like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Plus, it's notable that we don't really get Julia in the series for that long proper.
No, we don't. As soon as she's introduced, just immediately afterwards, she's killed off, and that's kind of Spike's whole motivation for living. I mean, after that point, he doesn't give a fuck anymore.
No, he what's left for him, I mean, that was his driving force for so many episodes, and like for instance, going back to Jupiter Jazz, that's the reason why he went off there was, Julia was brought up.
Yeah.
And he was immediately like, without thinking, he was like, nope, I gotta get out of there. I gotta go get her. And I gotta go look for her.
He found a family with the Bebop, but even that's sort of kind of winding down. As we lose a couple members, and who's to say that this is gonna last forever? And I think maybe Spike realizes that too. And when he leaves, he knows full well that there's a good chance that he's gonna die. He says, I don't plan on it, but
well, there's that story that he tells about the cat going, like, losing all of his lives, and then after loving that one cat, he finally dies the final death, and he didn't come back.
And look at the way he fights in that. He's more reckless than he even is usually. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
He wants to kill Vicious no matter what it takes, even if that means that he's gonna die too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the one time you kind of see him like really gritting his teeth and not kind of being jovial with his challenge. It's very much personal.
That kind of cockiness.
Here's a question though: Did you feel more weight kind of between the death scenes or between the final interaction with Faye?
The final interaction with Faye, I think, is the heaviest one, because that's when when she's coming to terms with it. Like she just realized that no, this is her family, and now that's being taken from her again.
Yeah, definitely.
It's almost another death for her in a way.
She's also, I think, one of my favorite, like femme fatale type characters in anime. I think that she's a very strong and empowering female character that obviously has her own ups and downs as well. At the end of the day, she looks out for herself, but then she sort of finds this other driving force only for it to be eventually ripped away from her.
Yeah. And I think that ultimately what makes Faye so compelling is that, she's just such a blank slate when it comes to her past. And then when we finally learn about that past, it's like there's that real possibility that she may never know who she actually is. It kind of feels like her identity is kind of just, plopped into her lap near the end of the series.
And that's why like I'd say it's like it's kind of through Spike's like lens, this, even though you get like the real development and you get the real character development of everyone else on the Bebop, but it really doesn't feel like Jet or Faye get to complete their arcs. It's almost like their story dies with Spike.
That is true, a little bit. And even though we do get some, some conclusion to certain parts of their lives, like for instance, Jet in his relationship with his ex-girlfriend, we don't really get a full like denouement or epilogue for them in any way. We really don't.
I mean, Faye finally does remember her past, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like
exactly.
you said,
the coldness of it doesn't matter what the cryo did, or that's a complete separation. Her life really started again when she joined the Bebop.
Yeah, that was when it started in earnest.
Yeah, and in that episode as well, in that hard light woman bit, because at the end you see the meteorite strike on Earth again, so it kind of builds up on that, and it and she only finds what's the remnants of her home.
can I tell you? It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Truthfully, I don't think about those guys much since all that stuff went down.
I got this one nailed. Take your best shot, kid.
I'm sure she's out somewhere screwing up and getting in trouble.
Men are such total idiots.
I'm really not up for this.
There's nothing in this world to believe in.
You know what they say, Cowboy. Easy come, easy go.
My God is the only God.
Take him out and do it quick!
Bad dream you never wake up from. Your partner's in deep trouble. Let's just say my past is catching up to me. The people who go against the city for clues. Now who's the small fry?
Whatever happens, happens.
Danger is beautiful, but you just can't live alone. Adios.
Sometimes it ain't pretty, but it's a living.
There's nothing there. It's all behind. There's nothing to further her story as such.
Yeah,
and it's being repeatedly destroyed by, the rock falls and meteor strikes on Earth. It's just it's every time it's just constantly eroding away, and she'll know there'll be nothing there. There's nothing there now, and it's only going to get worse. It's only going to further erode away.
Yeah.
So she's never going to know her true past and everything about her past.
Yeah.
Now it's interesting go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it puts you on a note where you're kind of looking up and just thinking, no, there needs to be more. There needs to be more. And then bang, 2002.
Well, it's interesting to juxtapose that with how Ed's story ends. I mean, Ed actually never really lost her father. It's like they were always there on Earth. It's like he was just going from place to place to place. So, I mean, and she actually grew up in that world. She grew up mitigating what was going on with Earth. So, I mean, she's actually very well connected to Earth as opposed to Faye.
That's true. I want to.
Yeah, and one of the.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go. You finish what you're saying, Ashley.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to go off on another point entirely. So,
well, I was just going to say on the characters bit. So Watanabe 4 years previously had directed Macross Plus, and if you look at some of the characters in there, and especially the lead character in Macross Plus, and he's kind of a headstrong, doesn't really care kind of character, and you can see what Watanabe was doing, that kind of carried into Cowboy Bebop a bit. I think you can clearly see in Watanabe's work that progression, and it's again, because I watched Macross Plus fairly recently, and watching this again, it's like actually you can really see that from a director, from his point of view. It's there's that some things he's done with characters in his previous work, and he's carried it on into this.
The dynamic, or is it the?
I think it's just the style of the characters because there's a similar character dynamic in Macross Plus, which I think in this is further expanded and developed, because Macross Plus was just for 50-minute episodes or 40-minute episodes, and then here you've got a whole 26 episodes to really flesh it out. So it's really interesting, some of the seeds and stuff you see in Macross Plus, how Watanabe is.
Yeah,
has
I'm
developed
familiar.
it.
I'm familiar with Macross Plus. I think I have that on DVD somewhere.
Oh, nice. I haven't checked that out.
Yeah, honestly, I might have to pull it out and actually compare because I mean I didn't even think about that to tell the truth. In all honesty,
Because the other thing that's linked is Yoko Kanno's, because she did the score for Macross Plus as well.
Yeah. So they had that working
stylistically.
Yeah, that's awesome. Huh.
Well, one more episode I want to touch on before we get into the movie is Mushroom Samba.
Ooh,
one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
That's a great episode.
I mean, they just straight up trip on mushrooms. You know, I kind of want to watch that episode on mushrooms, to be honest.
Plus,
it's just such a standalone episode. It's just, it is off the beaten track.
Plus, they give Ed a chance to take down a bounty. How can you not love that?
Yeah.
That's Edward's approach to bounty hunting.
Yeah.
You know, Edward is usually, you know, Cowboy Bebop at his computer, you know? Like, I mean, he's always at the computer. But to see Ed actually go out there, like, even take some gear and, like, actively take on a bounty. And also the blaxploitation homage. Oh, my Lord.
Yeah.
Like, that is so much fun. I mean, you pretty much get Foxy Brown up in that shit.
Yeah, definitely.
And Dolomite and whatnot. I mean, it's like, damn.
But I like the way that episode starts with the Bebop in dire straits.
Yeah,
they're all out of everything, just completely deadlocked.
Just pretty much their lives on a daily.
You know, and they, you know, that ship kind of just knocks them and forces, you know, knocks them out of orbit
down into an ego death trip.
You know, it's just that what we were saying, like at the beginning, you know, when we started talking about it, that kind of you know, just that mundane, you know, lifestyle
of like in a ship, adrift.
You know, bounties, and it's not regular work. You know, you're chasing down you only get paid and earn when you chase someone down. So there's a lot of effort which may not pay off. And I think that episode really sums it up. You know, I think that really epitomizes that.
It's a great motif though that's like used from the get-go. So it feels very like it's almost like you remember Red Dwarf? It's almost like returning to Red Dwarf.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
You get the establishing shot of the ship, and then you step inside, and then you're on board with the crew, and you're like, oh, I know this scenario. It's the beef and spicy vegetables without the beef.
It's all that kind of stuff. It's brilliant.
Pot noodle from a polystyrene cup. It's like there's no protein. They're all freaking out. They're all up in each other's business, and the family's falling apart until they can reconnect when they do what they do best.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Hold on one second. Recording. We're recording, please.
Pizza?
We just had somebody knock on my door real quick.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry about that. But anyway, go ahead.
Because one of the things that's quite interesting, you know, what we've talked about, it, you know, it's very difficult genre to define, because I remember, you know, Watanabe sort of famously said it's a show that defines its own genre.
It does.
He's not wrong. And he's not wrong, because it covers so many different things. And there's a series called Outlaw Star, which is another kind of space western type show, which actually started airing.
Yeah, I love Outlaw Star. Yeah, that's a great series.
Yeah.
Another one of those great Adult Swim Toonami series. So
yeah, but it actually started airing like 4 months before Cowboy Bebop did, and it's from Sunrise. You know, so both from the same studio. But it's interesting that it's interesting that like Outlaw Star is always kind of perceived like, oh well, it didn't do what Cowboy Bebop did, but it's not as good. Actually came beforehand. You know, it was actually in production first. And I always think it's a really kind of unfair comparison, because they're such different shows.
Yeah, but it still feels like they're good companion shows, though. You know, like, I mean, I especially
good, yeah, I agree. They're kind of good companions, but yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, I guess we can go ahead and start talking about the movie.
The movie, yeah, also known as Cowboy Bebop Knocking on Heaven's Door. And I kind of wish in the Western release they actually refer to it as that, because it's another music reference. but also
Yeah.
directed by Watanabe. And I think it feels like an extended Cowboy Bebop episode, except instead of 20 minutes, it's 2 hours.
Yeah, and it actually
Yeah.
takes its place. It takes its place narratively. Where is it?
Between episodes 22 and 23, I believe. So right.
Yeah, it's somewhere
before
right
Brain
towards
Scratch.
the kind of towards the end of the series. Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
it was between a break in the series, I think, a prolonged one where it dropped.
That would make sense, but yeah, no, like narratively, it takes place between those two episodes, so sort of towards the end, but before Big Shot ends, I believe that was one of the ways that they used to determine its placement, and it takes place on Mars, which is referenced as early as the first episode as you know the place where rich people live. And I love, how they go out with it. With the movie, you think that they try to explore a lot of different locations, but like a lot of Bebop episodes, it kind of just takes place on this one location. And you've got a really interesting antagonist for the movie as well with Vincent.
Yeah.
Vincent is interesting, I think. I mean, I don't remember the character all that well, but
Yeah, I mean, what I really like about the movie is that actually it gives Watanabe more room to actually to kind of develop scenes, because that scene when they're on the monorail, there's like the way the tension builds up in that. There's when they're facing off at each other down the carriage with a gun pointing at each other, there's a whole build up to that. Yeah. And then it the action happens and you get the slow-mo bit as the grenade or the bomb goes off in the carriage and stuff. And because it's a 2-hour film, there's actually effectively an episode to just do that one scene. Of the running time to do that one scene. So Watanabe can really develop, he can really build tension. He can really kind of, all the little nuances and the looks between the characters and stuff, and the way the set piece rolls out. Because this movie's full of really good set pieces, but it's because
take it one step further, and even though some people might argue that it's too long, right? I would argue that there isn't a second wasted.
No.
I would argue that everything is so beautifully crafted.
Yeah.
You can get some extreme level of detail out of every frame.
No, I think
there's always something to go, wow. Oh, wow,
100%. I think Watanabe effectively uses the additional running time, and the movie, it is pretty long. Like I said, you do feel the length of it because your typical Bebop episode, is kind of over in a flash, and yet it doesn't feel like anything was padded or, that there was any time wasted. Like you said, every single second, every frame is showing you something. And that's just that there's really just a testament to the writing quality, and it shows the versatility that the director has.
Yeah, you've got this whole it's because there's so many sequences to it which completely blow the doors off of the sequence before, and it's the key attention to detail for the team that was working on solely the combat sequences, and then you've got that big Top Gun aerial combat fight. It's just all nuts. It's brilliant.
Yeah. But one thing with the movie I will say, there's a bit towards the end where there's I think there's Vincent and Faye, and there's a lot of characters there's a lot of real philosophical talk, and I just think that scene is just a few minutes too long.
Maybe a little bit.
I think that takes a little bit of energy out of the film. I think it's good to have that downtime, but that's
actually, yeah, I think you might be right. I mean, but I
think for me personally, that's just a little bit too long, that scene.
Yeah, I think it's also because his motives are a little bit hard to grasp. You can't really empathize with him.
No.
No. And so when he's doing these long, drawn out kind of poetic statements, it's just get over yourself, mate. You're essentially immortal.
Also, is it just me, or does Vincent never know that his plan was actually foiled? because
yeah, no, he's so cocky
absolutely,
all the time.
yeah.
But he's got nothing to lose though. That's the thing, you know. He's got nothing to lose. So, but it does make you feel like after every like altercation with him, it's just like, but did they win? I feel like they didn't win.
Yeah, definitely. But it's an absolutely gorgeous film, though. I mean, it really it's absolutely beautiful.
It really is. I mean, just animation wise, I mean, it's definitely a more fluid approach to the animation than on the TV series.
Yeah, I mean, the bigger budget I think shows with the movie. I mean, they really went all out with the animation, and while it definitely reminds you of the series, it's just a little bit better quality, and that's kind of what you want to see out of an anime movie.
Yeah.
Was it 4 years after the last episode aired? Something.
2001, the movie. So
yeah.
So it's probably about 2 and a bit by the time the series actually ended. Yeah.
That's wild. I mean, yeah, like the love and craft and the detail is like there's nothing you can watch it back and just get so about every scene.
Yeah. You also have the woman character Electra, I think her name was, and she's got a connection to Vincent. Yeah, like, but she doesn't realize that she actually has she's actually immune to it, the nano machines.
Yeah.
How does that revelation? I know how it happens, but I forget like how she got them in her system.
Oh, like how she got his.
Yeah,
blood
she
in
gets
her
exposed
system?
to him. Yeah.
Oh, she gets exposed to them.
Yeah.
I
know she gets exposed to the nanobots, but I forget how she got the nanos in her system in the first place.
Yeah,
That's
and
the
I
gap
just
in my
watched it
memory.
yesterday, and I'm kind of glossing over it too. But at some point, I guess she got his
that's
blood.
the one thing. Like I concentrate on that like often every time I rewatch this, and it is the one thing my brain constantly glosses over is how did she get the nanobots?
Yeah.
I forget.
I don't remember, but I like that. There's a scene where they're both Spike and Electra are in the prison together, and he actually alludes to Julia for a moment, and kind of shows this vulnerability that we don't even see with members of the Bebop very often. And I think it's interesting that Spike, consistently has this connection to women. I mean, we kind of see it in the beginning with Asteroid Blues as well.
Yeah,
and throughout the series.
That connection is very understated in many ways. Like he's like it seems like he's not trying to like romance every one of them.
No,
honestly. He just has a way with, connecting with them that, he can lower their defenses a little bit and actually become friends with them easily, you know?
I mean, he's a space cowboy. He's elusive. He's sexy.
Yeah.
He's just like, he's a admirable, rugged kind of character.
Yet still accessible, You could kind of still talk to him and be cool.
Yeah.
That doesn't extend to Faye, by the way.
No, he is just, him and Faye just... They were at each other's throats pretty much from the get-go.
Yeah.
Well, when they first met, I mean, they had a little bit of a flirty thing going, like when they were at the casino and everything.
Right.
But,
I think it's because, like, Faye gets used for comic relief before Ed joins the group,
Yeah.
Right.
She stops being the comic relief as soon as the wacky hacker kid, like, fulfills that role. And so then after that episode, like kind of like they start pouring that up between Spike and Faye again.
Even then, Faye can be pretty funny though.
She
that's true. Yeah, she has got her scenes.
She's got a more serious role in the movie, I'll say. I mean, Vincent, I guess, kind of feels a connection with her and wants her to be like the sole survivor with him or something. And there's a scene that's a little uncomfortable where he like cuts her top and shit.
There's that scene that is quite
it's a little not so much rapey, but just kind of Yeah.
Well, it's that threat, isn't it?
It's pretty up there.
I'm going to say it's kind of getting pretty rapey.
It's
yeah,
like non-consensual knife play.
No, I mean I've got that in my notes that's quite a fairly uncomfortable scene.
I love that. I got that in my notes. Not okay.
Yeah,
and it's weird because even in the original series, you don't get a whole lot of that.
No, you don't.
No, not at all. Honestly,
I mean, it's still gutsy and macabre, but and it really never crosses that kind of like that line.
Yeah,
no, it doesn't, and that movie, the movie does kind of feel like a little bit more mature as well. I think just in general, its tone is a little bit dark.
It doesn't have the same tongue-in-cheekness that the series can have.
No, it is.
No, that's something you said, Lewis, as well, didn't you, about the difference in like Spike's character in the movie?
Yesterday, actually, when we were like having a catch up. There's a serious difference in Spike's character, which does feel a little bit juxtaposed against where it should sit in the series. Even though things are like ramping up and everything else, this one kind of job is occupying his whole mind.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's only like the largest bounty in Mars history and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That's true.
But like it does serve as as a standalone piece when it kind of replays the introduction of the first episode in the series, in the movie, where it's got the sexy space undertones and there's all this jazz music and great, you're immediately captivated by the soundtrack and it immediately replays the familiar scenario. So it's introductory to people who are watching it for the first time, and it's so familiar to people who know the series. It's a meal between Jet and Spike. Right?
The movie's opening is actually I enjoy it quite a bit because, like you said, I think it's good for even people who haven't watched the series, and for people who have, it's just more of these characters, and you get to kind of nibble on it a little bit more. But it's a good introduction, so much so that the scene almost line for line was copied into the Netflix series. Actually, they actually used the funny enough, they used some of the lines from the opening of the movie.
Really? I didn't watch the Netflix series.
You didn't miss much.
We won't get into it too much. For what it's worth, I think that they did nail the characters. The casting was really good. And I do like that they referenced the movie by using that opening scene. They even, like I said, line for line, they said, I'm just a good old fashioned just a humble bounty hunter. That's what he says.
Hell, they even jocked some scenes from some of the manga even in that series.
I haven't read the manga.
I have.
I think there's a certain difficulty that, much like the live action versions of things like The Lion King. There's a certain difficulty when there's such an image held to mind of this imagination and this fantasy scape that's so well captured through animation that it's just untranslatable.
I completely agree with you, Lewis. I think that's absolutely
stylistically there's really nothing you could do unless you're some savant level art director working together as a team seamlessly. It's just one of those, like you said earlier, it defines its own genre and it just cannot be recreated or interpreted into something like a live action series.
I agree.
Insanely hard.
And that's why I like anime so much, and animation in general so much, because there's something that you can just do in animation that you just cannot do.
You spark an imagination. It's like the world becomes yours. It's not. It doesn't feel like you're occupying. You're not a fly on the wall. This is like it's a 2D thing, and you're presented with like a painting and a story, and you're taken there. It's like the interpretation of art and versus, kind of like the nuances of how someone's jacket moves in a breeze. Like everything in animation is deliberate. Your eyes are drawn to something. There's a visual hierarchy to that. It's
absolutely.
That craft through from music choice to scene by scene panning to where the money gets saved to where the money gets spent. And the whole piece is you cannot recreate it. You cannot recreate the combat scenes the same way you could in It's just it just doesn't work.
I would
There's no
say
emphasis.
that a series as idiosyncratic as Cowboy Bebop, even trying to remake it using today's animation styles, I think would be a little difficult to really capture.
It's something that kind of just stands on its own. We have the 26 episodes and we have the movie, and that's it.
It's an enigma.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and that's all that there needs to be. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing maybe another movie set, you know, between some of the episodes, or maybe a couple extra episodes here and there if they were able to replicate the original animation style. But other than that, I mean, this is a series that kind of just needs to be left alone. You know, I don't think it needs to be adapted. I don't think it needs to be remade or rebooted. It is something that is perfect the way that it is. And the Netflix series at times captured some of the feeling, but it's always going to be compared to the source material. And that's what Cowboy Bebop is. And thankfully, you know, the movie, despite taking place, despite being made a few years after, and maybe there being some of the characters being written a little bit differently, you know, still feels very much in the same world.
Yeah. I knew something was going to be wrong when I first saw Ed in that. All the way near the end, when I first saw that, I was like, "Oh yeah, this isn't coming back. No, this isn't going to come back."
When the episode structure is so, and the movie structure is so like reading a comic book, you know, it's you can't translate that. So
which is interesting because it's not adapted from a manga. I mean, the anime is the original. There is a manga.
Yeah. The manga came. The manga came out after the fact.
I need to check that out though, because it would be nice to get some more stories set in the Bebop universe.
It would be interesting to see them actually. If they were to make a movie, they would need to adapt one of those stories.
Yeah, I honestly, that's if they want to do something, do that. Adapt the manga.
Like there's a manga story that goes a little deeper into Faye's backstory and actually gets into her mentor, which is actually brought into the live action series.
Okay.
Yeah, her mentor in that's an actual allusion to the manga.
Gotcha.
So
I think one of the fundamental problems of the TV series is it just completely failed to capture the cool. That was in the anime, you know.
Yeah,
the kind of essence that what made the anime such a great TV series. I think it just completely failed to capture that essence
and
recreate it.
I don't think that they were ever going to nail it. They just weren't going to.
You know, for all the reasons we've just said about why animation works for that kind of thing and doesn't hit, you know, I think it was kind of just doomed to fail, really.
I mean,
I went in with it a really open mind. I was going to be really kind of objective about it, and you know, didn't go in thinking I'm not going to like it. But yeah, literally after the first couple of episodes, I was just like, this is.
Going back to the whole thing with the animation, I mean, we're watching it right now, and I'm just noticing all the nuances, even in just, you know, the backgrounds and during like the fight scenes with like the explosions and everything.
Yeah,
and, you know, the reflections, the way that you know gunfire is portrayed and everything. There's it's just done in a way that it can never be replicated in live action. Even just little nuances like that.
Yeah,
and you'll notice in the craft of it as well, like where exposition scenes are kind of like cut into fast-paced segments, like chase scenes, where they want a lot of the budget to go on the emphasis on movement, reflection, and all that sort of stuff. They'll have there's one scene that stood out to me where they're doing. It's the chase scene. They come out and there's police looking for them, but like it's like a 3-second like animation frame, and it's like noticeably lower budget. Like it's just like kind of like a couple of frames for the mouth movement, and then it moves straight on. But you don't even notice it because like the pacing of the scene natural for that to be like, you know, that to be flung across.
Yeah.
It feels like you're flicking a page. You know, like, it's weird. It's great.
Exactly.
Stylistically, fantastic. Like the animation is just unbelievable.
There's so much
world building is just phenomenal. Like you say, you want more from that universe. Just simply because it's just so the intricacies of every scene, the way they kind of like they really double down heavily on the representations of ethnic groups in it as well.
Yeah,
music is stylistically chosen. You know, it's a bit on the nose, and it is very much, you know, like, you know, as you'd expect it to be. Maybe a very Japanese looking at the West kind of
Yeah,
interpretation
yeah.
of these cultures. But realistically, it's so visually stimulating that everything feels like a sight.
Yeah,
That's all I've got
definitely.
to say on that.
Yeah, it's got a lot of like the detail for a TV series as well, which generally tends to, often have a lot of shortcuts because they're working to a schedule and a smaller budget. The detail in it is like incredible.
Yeah.
And the animation quality is absolutely incredible for a TV series.
So much detail. Also, by the way, guys, dubbed or subbed for Cowboy Bebop?
You see, this is one of those rare ones where it's not a yes or no question, or a dubbed or sub question, because it's stylistically like I always kind of tend to watch it in subbed, but I know.
I don't know.
Is really good.
The dubbed version for me is just essential. I feel weird watching this
Is
in
it
Japanese.
close to the heart?
It's definitive. It's so definitively those characters.
I tend to prefer anime subtitled, but this one is one of those few that just, to me, the classic experience is dubbed.
And it's really because they found the perfect voice actors for these.
Steve Blum, Bo Billingsley.
Yeah.
I mean, they're amazing.
Yeah. It is one of those rare ones. It's like I know the feeling. I wouldn't say I have that feeling of it being right for Cowboy Bebop, because that's the first way I watched it was subbed.
Yeah.
But I know the feeling because I like watch, it's Western kind of interpretation, but the voice acting for if you look at Netflix and go to Castlevania, that the voice acting for Castlevania just feels so natural. It's just like handpicked. It feels very curated, and
yes, yeah.
I definitely would agree that the dub is given as much love as as it should. It's something where you pick. You're like, right, this is a landmark piece of media. We need the right voices.
Exactly.
It's handcrafted.
I've never watched it dubbed, I have to say.
Really?
I never watch anime dubbed. Yeah, I just don't watch anime dubbed. I never ever listen to dubs, so I've never heard the dub to Cowboy Bebop.
It's really good.
I highly recommend it. It's one of the greatest dubs ever recorded with some of the greatest voice actors ever.
And there are only a handful of anime I feel that way about. Full Metal Alchemist is one of them. I'll only watch that dubbed. I tried to watch Claymore subbed and it didn't feel right either. That's another one. But Cowboy Bebop, I think, is the definitive example of an anime that to me feels better dubbed. I mean, everyone's experience is going to differ. Death Note as well.
American dub of Shin-Chan. Gotta love that one. All right, now here's another question.
If there's any,
go ahead.
I can't think. Oh, carry on. No.
Right on.
With your question.
Okay, here's my question: Faye or Julia? Who's your favorite?
Faye.
Yeah.
Julia is. I think even Faye even says something about her. She's like, she's ordinary, and I'm like, yeah, you don't really get a lot of Julia. Faye is just such a much more fleshed out character.
Say that again.
Yeah. I was just going to say, like, Faye, you don't. Faye, you get to empathize with, and you get her whole plight, and you're way more connected. Julia, you just have no connection to her. You know she's close to. She's close to Spike, and you're close to Spike, but you're not close to her.
You want things to work out for Spike's sake, but you don't really know anything about Julia.
And that's where they fucked it up in the live action. Going back to that, that's what really did it for me, was how they fucked up Julia.
Yeah.
For me, Julia just feels a bit like you're kind of fairly standard femme fatale, almost.
Yeah, it is.
So,
it's not given as much attention as it probably should.
No, she's not given it as much. No,
it just goes back to the narrative, to how she's portrayed in the narrative. Yeah. I mean, she's pretty much like she's almost the MacGuffin for Spike for pretty much the entirety of the series.
Yeah,
she's kind of a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
Whereas Faye is her own person. She's her own character with her own arc, and whether or not that arc is tied up as as much as we would like, and as we get as much closure as we feel that we need with this character, you still spend a lot of time with her, and she just feels like an integral part of the series. and she has her ups and downs, and you get to understand her character, almost as well as you do Spike, or as well as you do with Jet.
Yeah.
And a little bit more than you do with Ed or Ein, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say a spin-off with Ed and Ein would be amazing.
Seriously.
That would be a great series. I need
Yeah,
some more,
yeah.
even if it's just a little OVA or something like that. That would be perfect.
I'm glad that the movie, even with the more serious tone that it took, still had its Ed scene.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, you still get that scene with Ed kind of walking door to door doing trick or treat way before Halloween even starts.
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
Oh yeah. But one more question. What episode from the original series do you think would be the best episode to show someone who has never watched Cowboy Bebop? Like, what would be the best introductory episode?
Oh, episode 1.
Episode 1, yeah.
I was gonna say Asteroid Blues. It is the
Asteroid
perfect
Blues
introduction to the series.
It's the perfect, like
That
you
is true.
get,
Yeah.
it immediately
Yeah.
sets up like you
Yeah.
know exactly what you're gonna get. 10,
Yeah.
like 15 seconds in, you've got space western, slightly steampunk. You've got like an incredible build up of like cinematic scenes showing off. It's just so wonderfully crafted.
Yeah.
It's definitely
it has got a very, very good, like I say, I think it is one of the best opening episodes of any series. There's a few like Armature with Votones, I think has the best opening episode of any TV series, but Cowboy Bebop's exactly for what Lewis just said. I think it just sets the whole everything you need to know about Cowboy Bebop and what to expect in the remaining 25 episodes.
And it's very Western friendly as well. Like,
very
definitely
Western friendly. Now,
the
see,
narrative structure is very
me
Western.
personally, I would show somebody Toys in the Attic.
That's a good episode too.
Honestly,
Yeah.
what's
to be
what's
honest,
good-
I think that is my weakest episode in the whole
Really?
series.
That's one of my
Yeah.
favorites because it's a straight up horror movie. It's a standalone horror story.
I like it quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and it has all those
Yeah.
great little allusions to like The Thing and Alien and all that. Like I mean,
Yeah, and I get all
what
the
would be
riffs and reference to it, but I think I don't know. For me, in the flow of the whole series, I think I don't know. I just kind of feel it spoils the flow of the series a bit. That episode.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would
if I'm
show it
honest.
to somebody first.
Yeah, I would show it as a example of what a standalone episode would be like. Just take it out of the overarching story and everything, and it's just like a typical story for the Bebop. It's like, to me, that's like one of the better ones.
That's true. It is one of the better standalone episodes. I mean, it's definitely up there.
Plus,
for me.
plus you get a little bit of the inner dialogue for each member of the Bebop. Like you kind of get a better grasp of what their characters are like.
It's got a fun structure too. The whole episode.
Yeah, with the lessons and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that ending is just superb, I think.
the lesson learned is, don't leave stuff in the fridge too long.
No, don't leave stuff in the fridge. that is sage advice.
Those episodes remind me of Red Dwarf in that way. It's kind of got everything's happening in isolation kind of things. These guys are solely responsible for their own chaos.
And the plot isn't
I think the
immediately
weakest.
resolved.
No,
exactly. I think the weakest episode to show someone for the first time would probably be Gateway Shuffle.
Yeah, probably.
It's just a bit. It's a bit entrenched and off beat, I guess, for the rest of the series. Because Honky Tonk goes like literally the episode before. It's a complete tonal shift in Gateway Shuffle.
True.
How
Yeah.
about
Feels a lot
Heavy
more
Metal
slapstick.
Queen? How about Heavy Metal Queen?
That's a fun one.
That's a fun episode.
Remind me.
The space trucker episode. It had VT.
Oh yes, yeah.
I think that's a pretty kick-ass episode to show, like, people who may not have ever heard of Cowboy Bebop. It's like, this is a best example of how the series works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the nice thing about Cowboy Bebop, though, is you could flip this on. Let's say you're watching Adult Swim in the early 2000s late at night, and Cowboy Bebop comes on, and you just watch an episode, and you can kind of get a feel for the series no matter where you start. I mean, unless it's the second part of one of those two-parters, that would probably be a little confusing.
Yeah.
But
to me, and another anime that's kind of similar in that particular vein is Ghost in the Shell standalone complex.
Okay, yeah, Ghost in the Shell, yeah.
There's a lot.
I was just gonna. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I was going to say that.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Go on.
What's great about that is, there's a very important overarching story, with like the Laughing Man and everything, but there's so many episodes in that series where you can just put it on and it's like you barely even need an introduction to the characters. You just kind of know that this is basically a procedural, and you know how to actually approach it and everything. And they have a lot of episodes like that, and I guess that's kind of where it's similar to Cowboy Bebop in that sense.
That may be one of the next anime that we need to cover, like one of the Ghost in the Shell movies.
Oh, we should do the first Ghost in the Shell movie. That's like a classic. That's up there with like Akira.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I would argue that the series of Cowboy Bebop and maybe the movie itself is worthy to be up there and listed with the greats like Akira and Ghost in the Shell.
Definitely,
100%. I think out of any anime I've watched, Cowboy Bebop has the best quality. In terms of storytelling, animation,
presentation,
everything.
The presentation of it,
it's up there.
It really did carry on.
I was saying, like Bo said earlier, it's a good gateway anime. To me, I would, if somebody was kind of hesitant about anime, I would show them either Cowboy Bebop or Death Note. Anime series that I would show people to introduce them that are just good stories that happen to be anime.
Yeah.
Yeah, because standalone
one of those weird ones because I always feel like it's a little bit too edgy to show first.
Yeah,
I think, but maybe I like Hunter x Hunter for that.
I'll go all the way back and just show them Project A-ko. Just go that far back. Fuck it. But anyways, I think that's about as much as we can get into Cowboy Bebop. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, I think just on that, standalone complex thing, I think, because it only came like 4 years or so after Cowboy Bebop, and there was definitely an influence in that Kenji Kamiyama definitely took that as an influence in how he structured that series.
Definitely. Yeah, you could
definitely
see it
an influence.
Powerful soundtracks stylistically throughout the two of them.
Both by Yoko Kanno, by the way.
Both mesmerizing.
Again, another
I was going to say both mesmerizing worlds that you just want to, explore more of.
Yeah, definitely.
Just a dream.
But anyway, I guess we're going to go ahead and start wrapping things up. Go ahead and tell us where our listeners can find your show on the social medias and on whatever podcatchers or whatever.
Yeah, so you can find us on Twitter at Retro Anime. You can find the podcast almost anywhere. So we're on SoundCloud, Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, or whatever it's called these days. So yeah, we're literally everywhere over the internet, and anywhere that does podcasts. But you can find us by searching for Retro Anime Podcast.
You can't get rid of us.
You can't get rid of us. No.
Excellent. Yeah, and is there anything coming up in the pipeline for the show, like any special episodes or anything like that?
What's next, E?
So we're doing a bit of a slice of life episode next. So we're doing Yagami's Family Affairs and Toei, a couple of late 80s, early 90s OVAs.
Nice.
And then we've got some interesting kind of war kind of films from the 80s, but using animals to kind of tell the story. So that one, that's going to be quite an interesting one.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
What what would you say is our favorite one we've done recently?
We've done. I quite like the City Hunter episode. That was a good one.
Yeah, City Hunter. I would also say Vampire Hunter D.
Yeah, the Vampire Hunter D one was a good one. Yeah.
I do love Vampire Hunter D. That's one of my old school favorites.
Yeah, it was one of those ones that I loved that. That was really cool.
That is that is a very, very. I mean because that film. I mean, I remember watching back in like the mid '90s or whenever it first came out, and it's such a timeless film.
It really is.
It really, really is a timeless film.
And then Bloodline is a great film in its own right.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'd forgotten actually how good Bloodline was. To be honest,
so good.
Really good.
I think watching that and then watching Castlevania on Netflix made me enjoy Vampire Hunter D and Castlevania more. I love that kind of era. Set.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well,
it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, definitely. It was our pleasure having you guys on the show. We would love to have you back on the show again to talk about another anime movie sometime.
Yeah, like I said, I think naturally Ghost in the Shell would be a good place to go next. But at some point, I may want to indulge myself. And do like a Naruto movie or something too.
If we're going to do that, then we need to bring an Inuyasha movie out. Because that's closer to my generation.
We could also do Trigun.
Trigun. Oh yeah, we got to do Trigun. Hell yeah.
Especially with the new series coming out.
Yeah. There's a new Trigun.
The new one.
It could be good to get ahead of it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's kind of a good companion piece to Cowboy Bebop, another space western.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
that's
I love Trigun.
Good old Vasha Stampede. Well, Ash, what's going on with Collateral Gaming?
Well, one of these days we may actually get our part 2 of our season finale out on Fire Emblem: The Blazing Blade. Shit's been hard to coordinate, but eventually that's happening. Hopefully by the end of this month, and then we will be starting up season 5 of Collateral Gaming with Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VII Remake. Let me tell you, I have been sleeping on this game for too long because it's fucking amazing.
It really is. It's one of my all-time childhood classics. I know that game practically like the back of my hand, and I'm looking forward to talking about it.
So, yeah, that's how we're opening up the season. It's going to be a 2-parter. We're going to talk about Final Fantasy VII, the original, and then Final Fantasy VII Remake, kind of comparing and contrasting the two. And that's going to be a lot of fun. I have been thoroughly enjoying both of those.
Yeah, they're both amazing games, and I'm having fun playing my file on my PS Classic. I mean, I'm just sitting there grinding and grinding and grinding. I'm not even like a quarter of the way through the first disc, and I'm already at level like 60 and everything. I'm like,
I know this motherfucker loves to grind.
You know, I grind like heavily in my RPGs, heavily. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. And you can find Collateral Gaming in the same places we can find Collateral Cinema, right?
That's right. Wherever you get your podcasts.
Yep. And also on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. You can find us there.
And also check out our Patreon. We have exclusive full-length movie commentaries. And maybe during the interseason break, before Season 6 starts up, we should get a couple more out. Namely, the Buttercream Gang.
Buttercreamers. Buttercreaming for life and for fun. That's right. Buttercreaming is about having fun.
It's not just about helping people or whatever.
Having fun.
It's about having fun.
It's about
buttercreaming for Jesus.
Oh my God. Yeah, fun times. And also check us out on Good Pods. You can go there and find your favorite indie podcasts. I wouldn't be surprised if Retro Anime is on that app as well. But
like I said, you can't get rid of us.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, follow us there. Check out our episodes and give us a rating so that we can climb the rankings on the indie cinema podcasts and everything. So yeah, check us out there and follow us there. But anyways, guys, is there anything else you would like to add?
No, just been really good to actually be on here and do this podcast with you guys. I've been looking forward to it for a long time, so I'm glad we've made it happen.
Yeah, we finally made it happen. It's like, hell yeah.
Yeah, it's been great to have you guys, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to do a promo swap or something like that sometime soon. So
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
For sure, for sure. Well, with all that said, I'm Bo Maddox.
I'm Ashley Chancellor.
I'm Ian Harper.
And I'm Lewis, but you can call me Lube.
And this was Collateral Cinema with the Retro Anime Podcast. And yeah, you're going to carry that weight, ladies and gentlemen.
See you later, Space Cowboy.
See you, Space Cowboy. Slav
See you,
Ukraina.
Space Cowboy.
Yeah. Slav Ukraina. Later. Collateral Cinema is a Collateral Media podcast. All music and movie clips are owned by their respective creators and are used for educational purposes only. Please don't sue us. We're poor.